Right now, we are experiencing a moment we could not have imagined just a few short months ago.
All of us here have faced major delays, setbacks to achieving our goals. We flourish despite them with grit and tenacity.
When you're in the midst of these challenges, pause, reflect, and know that these moments mark the space between two accomplishments.
You do not get to choose the world into which you graduate. You only get to choose how you deal with it, what you make of it. And there is so much to make of the world as it will be.
You all have your own personal and significant reasons why you are here, and your why will make our school that much stronger.
Together, we will make the best of these circumstances and succeed in effectively celebrating our shared achievements.
Good evening. Welcome to UNR Med's 2020 State of the School Address. I'm grateful to all of you for coming together tonight. I always want this event to reach the widest possible representation of the entire School of Medicine and University Health. You have made that happen, all of you, faculty and staff members, students, residents, alumni, campus colleagues, clinical community faculty members, healthcare partners, and community members. We are together to share the many challenges and opportunities that we face. Never has it been more important than this year. I thought I would be welcoming you back to the Basin Street Club at Mackey Stadium. We chose the date for tonight's meeting nearly a year ago so as to work around the Wolfpack's football season. And now, Mackey Stadium stands empty. I was supposed to see all of your smiling faces in person. We were supposed to be able to socialize and celebrate our many achievements. Catching up with so many of you at this event is one of the highlights of my year. Alas, that is not to be. 2020 has not been the year I expected. The same is likely true for you. But the core reason for coming together annually in some fashion still holds: to celebrate our achievements, to affirm our commitment to our mission, and to look ahead to the coming year with optimism. When the COVID-19 pandemic has been long resolved, whenever and however that occurs, our core values will continue to prevail. Our commitment to our community and to one another transcend even a global cataclysm. The word pandemic comes from the Greek word pandemos. Pan meaning all, and demos meaning people or population. Literally all the people. COVID-19 has indeed touched all the people, each and every one of us, and those around us. I was recently reminded that at one point, very early on, I was on record as predicting that we'd return to, quote, normal around June 1st. How wrong I was, although in my defense, I was not alone. The pandemic has not turned out to be like the end of World War II. We have yet to pour out of our homes into the streets to celebrate a return to normalcy. I'm not making any more predictions for when that will occur. One thing we have learned to live with for the last 7 months, at least to some extent, is uncertainty about nearly everything. About the virus, about biology, about behavior, about our day-to-day lives. We're still very much in the middle of this pandemic. We know its beginning and we're living its middle, but we cannot see its end. Each of us is experiencing this middle differently, but we're still together in this moment. In this moment. Our State of the School Address theme recognizes where we are, the certainty of this moment being the only true certainty we have for now. In this moment, we celebrate your contributions and your wins, moments from the past and others that we may expect in the future. You have met each moment both individually and together, and we are now preparing for the moments still to come. People are our strength. I've witnessed this UNR Med and University Health core value in action in ways too numerous to count. Helping our community, our campus, and each other manage this pandemic requires the collective efforts of all of you, every member of every part of UNR Med and University Health. All of you came together to not only maintain and survive, but to continue to find ways that we might thrive. Lest you think that is how every institution and organization, every business, every healthcare office and facility responded, just look around us at the devastation that has been wrought on so many parts of our economy. On February 28th, which seems so long ago now, Governor Sisolak said, "Nevada will be prepared and not panic." UNR Med and University Health prepared and responded. We did not panic. At the Nevada State Public Health Lab, the situation was already being monitored. Although the full picture had not yet come together, information gathered from other states was being used to develop a plan that could proactively protect Nevada's citizens. Our first case of COVID-19 was identified on March 5th. And the Nevada State Public Health Lab took immediate action to support testing statewide. If you were monitoring the Nevada State Public Health Response website, you know that the state lab team was processing the bulk of Nevada's COVID-19 test kits in those early days, providing Nevadans with answers as quickly as possible, while allowing other testing facilities to gather supplies and get up and running. Toward the end of March, it was clear that testing was a major issue, with no end in sight. Through the work of the State Health Lab, Nevada gained approval from the Food and Drug Administration to become one of just 3 states allowed to develop, evaluate, and conduct COVID-19 testing on its own. This allowed the state of Nevada to expand testing capacity and to provide increased access to healthcare providers. By April, in partnership with UNR Med's Department of Microbiology and Immunology, the State Health Lab became the first public health lab in the nation to construct COVID-19 collection kits, including 3D printed testing swabs and viral transport media. The microbiology and immunology team continued their work with COVID-19 through another campus collaboration, partnering with the university's Nevada Genomics Center. The groups completed DNA sequencing of patient samples that had tested positive for COVID-19 to better understand genetic factors that could affect disease severity. Investigators in the Department of Microbiology and Immunology are also involved in studies of enhanced expression of SARS-CoV-2 proteins that could lead to new diagnostic approaches and new treatments with monoclonal antibodies. At our new Clinical Research Center, Dr. Mark Riddle and physician researchers launched a collaboration with Renown Health on a convalescent plasma study to understand how the immune system responds to COVID-19, as well as assess the approach's therapeutic benefits. Physician researchers from the CRC are developing a protocol to identify treatments for severe COVID at the VA Medical Center in collaboration with the pharmaceutical industry. They are also launching a study to explore the chronic gastrointestinal consequences of COVID-19 infections in veterans and working toward becoming a phase 3 vaccine testing site. Investigators in the Department of Physiology and Cell Biology collaborated on an animal study of proteins that may be involved in the loss of smell experienced by many COVID-19 patients, and may also explain why older patients seem to be more susceptible to the infection. On June 1st, Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak announced that Dr. Mark Pandori, director of the Nevada State Public Health Laboratory, would serve as Nevada's chief of testing and direct the state's long-term testing strategy. The same month, Nevada Health Response and the governor recognized the Nevada State Public Health Lab as the state's 50th and final Nevada Hero of the Day, with recognition of and gratitude for their tireless work in processing nearly 60,000 COVID-19 tests. And in the last few weeks, the Nevada State Public Health Lab team released the results of a meticulous case study of COVID-19 reinfection, the first documented case of reinfection in the United States. The results could help us better understand how the virus mutates and what this might mean for the effectiveness of a vaccine. What is perhaps even more amazing is that all of this COVID-19 work has had no impact on so many other important research achievements, so many investigators focusing on so many important diseases: muscular dystrophy, Parkinson's disease, cardiovascular disease, hearing disorders and deafness, brain biology and the neuropsychiatric consequences of stress, immune system dysfunction, and several other infectious diseases, pulmonary physiology, and reproductive biology. I apologize for what I am sure are important studies I have missed. We are successful in so many areas. We welcomed our new Associate Dean for Biomedical Research, Dr. Lucia Natterpeck, in May. She brought her neurosciences lab and her outstanding scientific leadership experience as the chair of neurosciences at the University of Florida to UNR Med. She has already made a positive impact, even virtually, in her new role. We lauded a lifetime of scientific advancements made by Dr. Kent Sanders, as he was named Nevada's 2020 Distinguished Researcher, an annual award presented to just one researcher chosen from Nevada's entire higher education system. And we have an additional senior leader to welcome, Ms. Jackie Bernard, who has just started as the new Senior Associate Dean for Administration and Finance. Jackie comes to us with a strong background in academic medicine from the University of Utah, with particular expertise in hospital and health system affiliations. We've also benefited enormously from the interim, now 8 months and counting, service of Mr. Mike Herbert, and we are looking for new ways he might continue to serve. The everyday commitment of our university health staff and faculty members took on new meaning when the pandemic hit. As the virus spread, our university health clinics continued to welcome patients for in-office visits with new PPE requirements and safety protocols. Our residents and fellows, a critical component of the healthcare workforce for university health, as well as for our clinical partners, stayed on the front lines, providing both outpatient and inpatient care for vulnerable patients, some of them severely ill from COVID-19. We demonstrated our core value of innovation and improvement through the development of virtual office visits and pivoted within days to restructure our clinical operations. The university health staff deserves particular commendation for completely changing how and where we delivered critical care, working to get patients set up on virtual platforms. The pendulum is now swinging back, and we are catching up on a huge demand for deferred in-person care while continuing to offer patients the option of seeing their clinicians virtually. All of this response and more was managed by our Coronavirus Crisis Action Team, CCAT, a multidisciplinary crisis team that we formed in the first couple weeks of the pandemic. CCAT was tasked with making decisions ranging from developing language for facility signage, to establishing check-in protocols for patients, to managing PPE supplies, to shutting down our research labs in a safe and proper fashion, and then more recently reopening them also in a safe fashion, and then to standing up a set of volunteer activities for our medical students. On each of these calls, which at the start occurred daily and sometimes through the weekend, the most frequent topic was the well-being of our university health faculty and staff members and whether they were receiving the support they needed. I'm so appreciative for the extraordinary commitment shown by all of our clinicians and clinical staff and how they helped so many patients through this difficult time. They continue to do so as clinical recommendations constantly change. UNR Med and University Health had to adjust, adapt, innovate, and respond to so many disruptions and crises never before seen or imagined. And the same was true for our administrative faculty and classified staff who managed core operations working remotely. We all learned so much about virtual meetings and platforms. I now know something that I never knew existed, how to manage the raise your hand function on Teams. And all of you rose to the occasion, providing support and infrastructure, establishing new processes and procedures, continuing crucial internal and external communications, and moving critical processes like student, resident, and faculty recruitment to virtual environments. University leaders found the perfect medical advisor in the director of the Student Health Center and UNR Med alumna, Dr. Cheryl Hugg-English. Dr. Hugg-English became one of the public faces behind the university's decision-making and communication. Her wisdom was critical in managing so many issues never before seen. Dr. Allison Cotton, an assistant professor of psychiatry and director of the psychiatry clerkship, addressed the increasing mental health care needs of healthcare professionals by working with colleagues across the country to develop a physician support line. Hundreds of volunteer physicians staff the support line in shifts, providing psychological first aid to healthcare providers whose mental health has been affected by the pandemic. Our Project ECHO team pivoted from their normal menu of outstanding clinical consultations to offer weekly COVID-19 updates to 60 different sites, mostly rural, and over 100 clinicians. The Student Outreach Clinic went virtual and continued to provide critical services to underserved patients. The Sanford Center for Aging team was concerned about how the pandemic was wearing on Nevada's elder population. Their response was the Nevada COVID-19 Aging Network Response Plan, or Nevada CAN, developed to provide statewide coordination of aging services. Several states based their plans on Nevada CAN, and Dr. Peter Reed, Sanford Center for Aging Director, was invited by Senator Jackie Rosen to testify before the U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging. And then, of course, there are our students whose lives and studies were entirely disrupted. Across the country, classrooms went dark, and clinical students were pulled from clerkships. UNR Med was no exception. What was exceptional, however, was the way UNR Med students responded. They didn't sit and wait for things to return to normal. They got to work, helping whenever and wherever possible with over 5,000 hours of critical volunteer activity. Students from all the health professional programs staffed COVID-19 hotlines in rural counties and with REMSA here in Reno as well. They conducted health screenings for the school district, supported drive-through testing for the health department, as well as for university health, and provided childcare, pet care, and elderly check-ins for the healthcare staff who spent long hours away from home. In recognition for their outstanding service, University of Nevada, Reno student volunteers, including students in community health sciences, nursing, and social work, as well as our own PA and medical students, were recognized with the 2020 Healthcare Hero Volunteer Award. On May 25th, a Minneapolis police officer put his knee on George Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes. And systemic racism that for decades was so apparent to its victims suddenly became more apparent to many of the rest of us, including me. My July reflections focused on the responsibility we have as healthcare professionals, scientists, and educators to address a form of racism that expresses itself as huge disparities in health and healthcare. The pandemic has made these disparities so dramatically apparent. Social determinants of health, where and how we live, learn, work, and play, have enormous effect on how healthcare is available, how it is delivered, and how patients are susceptible to illness and injury. The places where people live, learn, work, and play have been strongly influenced by discrimination, both implicit and overt. When my reflections column was published, I received 2 responses from physicians, very angry responses from physicians outside of Nevada, that criticized me for not emphasizing the concept that all lives matter. I responded that while we are, of course, committed to teaching and practicing the value inherent in all lives, we cannot ignore that some lives are behind others, so much that they need extra help to catch up. That extra help is our responsibility. This is not a zero-sum win-lose issue. Extra help to raise up some lives does not impair our ability to support all lives. We have a moral, professional, and human responsibility to do so. This responsibility has to be exercised even during the pandemic, and perhaps especially during the pandemic. Every COVID-19 measure of risk, illness, death, and disability favors white patients by a factor of 2, 3, or more compared to people of color. In August, Governor Sisolak issued a proclamation to formally declare racism a public health crisis. We have an obligation as a public medical school to support that proclamation in any way we can. We have an even deeper obligation as fellow human beings to help those who have suffered in the past and continue to suffer now. I encourage you to learn the uncomfortable truths about our history and how systemic racism has created health and healthcare problems that are our responsibility to address. As if all of this is not overwhelming enough, the pandemic has led to a nationwide economic crisis that has hit Nevada particularly hard. State funding for higher education has been reduced by nearly 20%, resulting in hiring freezes, employee furloughs, and departmental budget cuts, as well as reductions in Medicaid reimbursement. Our finance team was all over the federal stimulus programs and was successful in securing several loans, some of which will be forgiven. We have received other federal stimulus funds, with more possibly on the way. The net result is that we have maintained all of our core programs, and we have not eliminated any permanent faculty or staff positions. But our operating budgets and reserves have taken a huge hit. We're surviving, but we're not thriving. Times of financial stress are perfect for taking a fresh look at everything we do, reassessing our mission and how best to support it, how to best use limited resources, how to find new resources, how new partnerships can be leveraged for the benefit of our vision and mission. During all of this disruption and stress, we continue to have reasons to celebrate and new ways to do so. Finding new ways to come together when coming together is prohibited and possibly dangerous is a perfect way to demonstrate our innovation and creativity. In May, we celebrated the achievements of the class of 2020 with an amazing virtual hooding ceremony. I encourage you to watch the hooding video on YouTube, which has over 2,600 views and counting. It is extraordinarily moving. In August, we welcomed the class of 2024 with an equally inspiring and emotional virtual white coat ceremony, complete with very touching comments by each medical student about what their white coats mean to them. And our inaugural class of Physician Assistant Studies Program students, the class of 2020, held a hybrid completion ceremony earlier this month, a presentation created in advance that was combined with socially distanced in-person moments. These celebratory rituals are critical to our culture, critical to recognizing the achievement of our students, and critical to reminding us who we are, what we do, and why. Like medical schools across the country, we have been forever changed by the COVID-19 pandemic. This disruption has caused us to think bigger, to explore new approaches to expanding our clinical services, to develop a more robust clinical research program, and to expand our medical education pipeline to produce more healthcare professionals. A relationship with a large, integrated healthcare system could markedly enhance our success in meeting those objectives. Several months ago, we were approached by Renown health leaders to consider a high-level integration of many of our clinical services, clinical teaching, and clinical research programs. Dozens of meetings and hundreds of hours of work later, we took a letter of intent to the Board of Regents, which was approved 2 weeks ago. This approval now leads to a, quote, plan to plan, a phase of thorough and careful exploration of governance, operations, finances, mission, and especially culture. The objective of this intense phase of due diligence, with input from outside consultants and counsel, is to create a comprehensive, detailed agreement that we will consider fully before it goes back to the Board of Regents. This intent to affiliate is unlike anything we have ever discussed with any partner in the past, Renown Health or otherwise. This integration could transform both organizations, enhancing our ability to thrive, not just survive. More importantly, it could transform medical care in the Reno-Sparks metropolitan area and across northern Nevada. With this affiliation, we would become part of a true academic medical center. While we are and always will be enormously appreciative of the contributions of our many community partners and physician teachers, we would gain access to a large patient population and clinical database for teaching and research, capital for investment in both clinical and academic programs, nearly 400 new faculty physicians committed to teaching, and the opportunity to develop new residency and fellowship programs. This potential affiliation is our best opportunity to expand graduate medical education, to possibly expand the size of our medical school class, to train more physicians, to expand our clinical research experiences for students and residents, and to provide a strong clinical foundation to all of our academic programs. The combination of size, strategic vision, local governance, and not-for-profit status strongly argue for Renown Health to be the most appropriate partner with whom to explore this high-level integration. However, irrespective of that integration or any other, we will continue to partner with every single physician, hospital, and healthcare facility in northern Nevada that does not represent a competitive relationship Our strong and positive relationship with the VA Medical Center is a perfect example of a partnership that is critical and could also expand in coming years. But at their core, partnerships are not about things. They are about people. I understand that some of you have considerable skepticism and perhaps even stronger feelings about this potential partnership. I absolutely guarantee that you will have input into this decision, and we will continue to be as transparent as possible about developments. We will ensure that a history of variable and often adverse experiences with Renown will be addressed with new approaches to governance, funds flow, and leadership authority and accountability. Any new partnership has to guarantee our ability to thrive, to magnify our mission, and to protect our culture. We have worked so hard over the past few years to develop our culture and core values, to respect and support all of you, to emphasize innovation, service, integrity, and trust. Those values will guide us in the right direction, to the right decision, with the right partner, in the right way. In April 1910, President Theodore Roosevelt gave a speech in Paris known as the Man in the Arena. Male-centric pronouns notwithstanding, his words capture this moment, now 110 years later. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. You and I, all of us, are in the arena. Our faces are marred by dust and sweat. I see the fatigue in some of your faces. I see the toll the last 7 months have taken on you. But when it felt like our world was coming apart, all of you came together in the arena. Some days we fell short. Some days we achieved triumphantly. But every day we fought together valiantly. Thank you, all of you, for standing with me and standing with each other. Even during the most difficult of moments, you've continued to achieve, to demonstrate empathy without end, and to exemplify the mission and core values of UNR Med and University Health. You innovate and improve, you serve with integrity, you succeed with trust and respect, and you are, without doubt, our greatest strength. 2020 was not the year we expected, but it was certainly a year that surpassed all expectations. Thank you, and good evening. Good evening again. I know I said good evening at the end of the taped remarks, but I'm back. And I'm back because so many of you submitted questions, and I'd like to answer a few of them. So I picked just a few. We received, I think, more than 30, and I've picked out 5 with a few sub-questions that I wanted to address, just to kind of close out the evening and to touch on a few additional topic. So the first question, what is the vision of growth for our school in Northern Nevada over the next 10 years? So for me, it's partly an issue of growth and size, and partly an issue of how we are constructed and of the types of programs that we have. I think that we've come through a tremendous period of change that has positioned us extremely well to now think about some new programs, possibly larger class size, more residency programs, much larger clinical research programs, and a much larger impact on our community. And I think that's what I would most want you to think about. It's not so much kind of who we are or how big we are or what programs we have. The issue is how we become a player in the community, how we actually transform care in the community, how we actually make a difference in this community, how we actually have an influence on the overall quality of life in the community. So that, for me, is what's coming up in the next several years. The sub-questions here, what is the biggest challenge you see for our medical school in the near and long term, and what do you see as UNR Med's greatest opportunity in 2021? The biggest challenge, I think, is thinking of ourselves differently. We have always thought of ourselves as a small community-based school. We had that sort of construction for many years in the early days of the school. Then we realized that we really needed to expand and we needed to branch out with more clinical teaching opportunities, so that took us to Las Vegas and the creation of the Las Vegas campus. Now we are back and we are constructed as a community-based medical school, but I think it's time to think of ourselves differently. So the biggest challenge in the near term, I think, is to think of ourselves differently. The biggest challenge in the long term is to actually effect that change. And the greatest opportunity in 2021 is to position ourselves to do that. How do we put ourselves in the best position to be the medical school that we want to be and be the medical school that we need to be, and to influence medical care in the community as we should be doing? The second question, this is 2 out of 5. Is the proposed integration with Renown Health an opportunity to radically reform medical education? And kind of a second question, what plans are in place to support education delivery? I think this is actually the key question in our discussions with Renown. How does becoming a part of a true academic medical center, a truly integrated large health system and medical school with clinical components and academic components, teaching components, research components, how does that actually truly transform medical education delivery? The thing that's so fascinating about medical education is that it's entirely embedded in the delivery of care at that moment. So medical education post-World War II looked very different from medical education now, because medical care at that time was very different. And that's been true in several major phases since that time. So now the question is, how do we transform medical education to reflect the delivery of healthcare to broad populations, the delivery of extremely intense, high technology, high science healthcare to very complicated patients? How do we teach more about the management of chronic disease, which is such a huge part of healthcare delivery, the delivery of preventive services, which is such a huge part of healthcare delivery? How do we take advantage of what we've learned recently about virtual care and telemedicine and telehealth, which was kind of lingering for a long time and now has exploded in the pandemic? How do we incorporate that into medical education? How do we take advantage of all of the technological advancements and IT to change the way we deliver a lot of didactic teaching that we're now doing virtually? So everything that's going on around us has to be incorporated into our medical education model, and that's why being part of a large health system gives us the opportunity to do that. Question number 3, with the long-term effects of COVID on our state's health and economy, what opportunities will we be able to take advantage of in order to make progress on our strategic plan? And here's a secondary question, which I love. Of the positives you've seen come from us living through the pandemic, what are the top 3 for you? I love that second question because it implies that there are so many positives that we should pick the top 3. But I can probably pick a couple and answer the first question as well. I think what the pandemic has done is a couple things. One is to kind of reveal for us how extraordinarily committed we are to our mission and to our vision. That at a time of extraordinary stress, extraordinary disruption, complete worldwide cataclysm, we have buckled down and we have stayed committed to our mission and our vision. We have solved so many issues along the way that allow us to continue to be the medical school that we need to be. And the second thing that I would say that comes from that is our commitment to one another, our commitment to our culture, our commitment to our core values. The reason we were able to kind of buckle down and really address our mission and vision is because of our commitment to one another and our willingness to be adaptable and to be flexible, to work around so many impediments, to deal with the virtual meeting issue, to deal with the virtual teaching issue, to ramp down our research labs for a period of time and then very effectively ramp them back up. It is such a testimony to how you're committed to each other and how you're committed to your work that we managed to get through that. I would say those are extremely powerful positives. This could have gone way differently. This could have gone in many different directions, far less positive and far less productive, and we managed to do that. Number 4, what will be your approach to planning the integration with Renown, considering the variety of experiences our faculty have had? And sort of a related question, how do we set up this new partnership with different energy and expectations? That secondary question, to some extent, answers the first question. The issue here is not so much how we just come together with another major institution like Renown and just kind of accept some of the ways things may have been in the past or accept some of the ups and downs that we've had. The issue is how we actually contribute to creating an entirely different culture for the integration, an entirely different culture for the partnership. How do we actually change the nature of that working relationship as opposed to just kind of accepting it the way it is? That's what this integration could be about, which is truly coming together. In a sense, we're creating a new entity. It's not two institutions coming together and kind of being stuck together. The issue is actually creating something in the middle called an academic medical center. How does it function? How is it governed? How is it financed? How does it invest in new programs? How do we communicate around the mission and vision of that academic medical center? In the process, achieving our vision for medical education and medical research, but also achieving Renown's commitment to care for the community. They have an enormous influence on the medical care in this community, and how do the two of us achieve our visions by coming together and creating this new entity in the middle called an academic medical center. And finally, number 5, a question for which I'm very appreciative. How are you doing? And a secondary question that I'll get to and finish up. I appreciate being asked. I think I'm doing okay. I think it's like a lot of you, sort of day by day, trying to cope with issues as they come up. I think there's a kind of a disconnect in terms of how we're doing personally, my wife Jane and me, versus how I'm doing at work, because we're missing our grandchildren, we're missing our families. Our daughter's family is in Denver, our son's family is in Brooklyn. Our son and daughter-in-law have a 2-year-old, Nina, and we're missing most of a year of Nina's 2 years of life. That's very sad. We have seen our grandsons in Denver briefly. So there's a lot of stress there. Jane and I are doing well together, and we're both somewhat introverted, so we do fine kind of settling in together. We've got our binge TV watching. The Great British Baking Show would be one example. So we're doing well. Work-wise, I think it's just very stressful, very intense, as it is for everyone in the school. But because of all of you, I think that I'm coping okay. And that leads to the last question: what's been the most challenging issue of 2020, and how can we help? And I think I've already answered that to some extent, which is that it's you and how the schools come together and how we have all sort of risen to the challenge. I see every single day extraordinary contributions to the good of the school and to the good of one another. The random acts of kindness, the thoughtful gestures, the concern that people express, the ways that we sort of take care of each other and take care of the school and take care of our students and take care of all of the many beneficiaries of the school, the learners, the patients, everyone. And so that, for me, has been sort of the most challenging issue, which is how to try to contribute to that and how to try to make sure that continues. But it's also been the most rewarding issue and the most heartwarming issue and the most positive issue. So with that, again, I will say good evening. I wish you the best for the coming year. Please take care of yourself. Please take care of the people who depend on you. Good night.